Welcome back, everybody, to a weekly energy update for energetically sensitives and empaths. My name is Bryndis, and I'm a professional energy coach and energy trainer. And I want to show you what these outer energies, these collective energies as we call them, what they can do to your system, to your mood, to your body, and how to prevent all that to overpower you, how to prevent all that to dominate you. And what you can see here on the left side on the screen, if you're on Facebook, you see the weekly energy barometer. So that's more of a subjective experience here. It's not a science, so no worries. I'm not trying to make things more scientific than they are. We are talking about the realm of the unseen, the subtle energies, the things that we feel, that our intuition picks up on, and of course, for those of us who are energetically sensitive and empathetic, things that we can make out that do affect our energy. And so it isn't so much the fact that these energies are there, they're always there. It's just like germs, you know, they're always there. Just because we can't see them doesn't mean they don't exist. But just because they exist, it doesn't mean that we are in danger or that there is an impending apocalypse coming. It just means that we need to learn, we need to train ourselves how to deal with this better. And this is what these energy updates are for. They can help you to contextualize some of that. And if you are feeling in a certain way and you hear me talk about this, or you hear or see other people commenting on this, then you know that you're not alone. And this is also the reason why I do this live. And when I talk about collective energies and how to contextualize them for us, in other words, you know, what they mean for us, it's very important to stay at the pulse of it. And so I really want you guys to comment here in the commentary for everybody to read, especially those of you on Facebook, because these can be read even after the live stream is over on YouTube. And I want you guys to let other people know what you're going through, and especially if there are things that are helping you with this. And another reason, of course, why I do this live is to answer live questions. So please also use this opportunity to literally ask, okay, certain things. I'm going to give a brief overview here over the energies coming in next week. And the barometer, of course, forebodes a little bit of an... Not that it hasn't already been kind of stressful and overwhelming these last couple of weeks. But I'm reflecting here on how the collective responds to it, okay? So last week I was talking about bifurcation and how training your empathy, training your energetic sensitivity, and starting to learn the dynamics that are going on in the unseen between people can help you to deal with things better, okay? You don't have to take everything based on how you were conditioned, say, or how you were programmed, be it through your family or be it through the culture or the religion that you were most exposed to or influenced by. So when we begin to see these unseen energies, and I want to emphasize when I talk about seeing, I'm not talking about actually visually seeing. So a lot of us empaths actually are tactile energetically sensitives, which means we will feel things, and we will especially feel this in our bodies, and we will feel these ups and downs. And women are a little more used to this, you know, they through their own cycle, they go through a 4-week cycle linked to the lunar cycle of ups and downs. So we pay a little more attention to this, but there's a larger picture to that. And the larger picture is that whatever energies come in, they affect us in a certain way, and then we can still choose how to interact with the collective, and the collective, you know, being sort of all people around us. Last week, I recommended you guys to go out, even though you feel that the other people can be sort of negatively impacting your energy, simply because when energies go a little low in you, you still have this humanness, you still have your human physiology, and that is designed to be around other people. So just because you're an empath, just because you tend to absorb energies, doesn't mean that you have to stay away from other people, guys. that was the point that I was trying to make last week. This week, the energy that is coming in is a little different. The collective, meaning politics, finances, things happening in your family, things happening in your country, all these things are steering towards sort of an escalation. Okay, so there's been disillusionment going on here in these last weeks, where actually in these last couple of years, where more and more truths, abuse of power, abuse of your financial resources, abuse of all kinds of things, the political power and so forth, are slowly uncovering. And this is now forming more and more of a discontent in people. Okay, so we are steering towards a time here, these next 10 days, I want to say, where we can see a lot of unrest or outbursts in people. So I do want you guys, I do want to warn you guys, be a little cautious here. This next weekend can be a little rough on us empaths, because there's going to be somewhat of a purge of that. Okay, so there's a purge energy to this next week, especially next weekend. On the way to there, though, and this is the interesting part here, we're going to experience a few beautiful, really, really beautiful days where we can suddenly see the larger picture of all the things that have been keeping us down, that have been restricting us. And many of you, at least the people that work with me, are also beginning to see how they have been restricting themselves. So that is always a little bit of a rough one, when we realize that there are things in our life that perhaps happened when we were 10 years old or 5 years old or 15 years old, that are still dominating the way we see things, the way we feel things, and that are still dominating the choices that we make. And what are these choices? These choices are mostly things that have to do with what we accept as normal. Okay, and discontent in people always comes up when they accept things as normal that they shouldn't be accepting as normal, that are actually dysfunctional or toxic in their nature. But due to our childhood exposure, it's sometimes very difficult for us to identify this. And so training ourselves in this energy reading, if you will, which always starts with ourselves, allows us to become more conscientious and more aware of what these energies actually do to us. So before we can even feel like we have a choice, we kind of need to learn how to discern all these things first. And many of you have been realizing in the past couple of weeks that due to the trauma that they've experienced long time ago, and I don't want to go too deep into this, but things that have shaped us, our story, all right, that this has really limited the way we've seen ourselves and the world around us, and also then our choices. So I want you guys to understand that with this purge that is coming in here in this next week, that you also having a wonderful opportunity for a second chance. It's like a reset, okay? And reset, you know, the ego's kicking and screaming. It doesn't want to reset, because then it feels like it's losing something. It's losing all the stuff that it's invested into it. After all I've done for you, after all I've invested into this relationship, this job, this house, or whatever. And so we don't really want to reset. But if you are one of those that are recognizing that some things in your life are just not going into the right direction in the core, in the fundamentals of things, then I want you to see this next week, even though it's unread here on my barometer. I want you to see this week as a reset week, a realignment week, a week where you can consciously synchronize yourself with your new, with your augmented with your, higher way of seeing things now, and going into realizing it, going into the making it happen place with it, not just leaving it all in your head. So many of you got stuck in your head last week because you were contemplating about all the things that you have been tolerating, and also who was responsible for what, and all this was going on, and then you end up judging your own judging, or you end up becoming afraid of your own fear, or all these sort of secondary things that happen when we get stuck within ourselves. Okay, these things you got to choose to get out of them now. You, as an energetically sensitive and empath, you have a lot of skills, you have a lot of powers that can allow you to pierce through this. But many of you are still preferring to see themselves as a victim, and to look at the world as bad and evil, and everybody's just out there to get you or to make it hard on you. Guys, this victimhood is not going to help you. It is just cementing it, and part of that is actually the collective programming that tells you that you are powerless. So in order to reclaim your power, in order to actually manifest changes in your life, in order to liberate yourselves from whatever these restrictions are, whether it's self-imposed restrictions, whether it's restrictions based on trauma that you've experienced in your, early experiences in life, where you felt like that you weren't good enough, or that you became attached to certain things, whatever it is, I want you to see this next week as a week where you begin to have a choice. I want you to stand up and bring this vitality back to you and say, you know what, yeah, I may be damaged, I may be screwed up, I may have made a lot of mistakes, but guess what, I'm here. And I can do something right now, and I choose. I choose my empathy. I choose all this now. I may not fully understand yet what it can bring for me, but I choose to use it and to make corrections, to make active corrections, okay? And I want you guys to go into this place with yourself where you say, I'm not a victim. Yeah, I accept my trauma, I accept my bad experiences, I accept my mistakes. This is all okay, it has shaped me. But has it ever crossed your mind that people who go through a lot of adversity also come out as the people with the highest levels of resilience? And as most scientific studies show, also with the highest levels of happiness. Okay? So there's just a little piece missing here. And that is for you to actually acknowledge it and say, yeah, there are some fucked up parts of my life. That's all right. I am a true self. I'm a spiritual being that is having a physical experience. Okay? So part of my experience, part of this ticket here is to experience all these restrictions and limitations. Now, when it comes to collective, sort of political, planetary things, we still have to learn that this process, even though it's an individual process, we all have to go through this individually, still though is also a collective process. And I talk a lot about this. I talk a lot about this global awakening and why we're seeing so many more energetically sensitives and empaths nowadays. Also why we see a bit more of the other side of the coin, the negative outcroppings, people taking advantage of that, people using their energetic sensitivity to project things onto others, to get their ways, and often also for abuse. Any kind of abuse, really, and not just the obvious, the physical, but actually the energetic abuse. So we here as energy healers see a new phenomenon that has been forming over the last 20 years, and that is energetic abuse. That is literally using your energetic abilities to trap people in certain places, in emotional places, in places of inner discord, inner discontent, okay? And I'm not going to teach those here publicly. This is what we have all these energy training sessions and all this energy coaching going on here at transCODES, because some of these techniques literally just make evil things more evil, make narcissists become better narcissists. Okay, so you've got to understand that there's a limitation as to what I can share, because some of these things triggers people to get more power, and so by learning about these unseen interactions between people, they see that they can become much better at manipulating others. So as you know, there's several outlets that we have here at transCODES, and I have a Patreon channel that supports all these video productions, and all the we're changing the website now finally. Thank you, Patreon subscribers, you made that possible. But also to publish information that I can't publish publicly. So once in a while I will put the energy tips up on YouTube if I think that they're really important for people, sort of a couple of weeks later. And I also have this Concepts for Empath playlist there on YouTube that you should look at. And we're still editing, and now some of these things are years old, and I would probably say it differently today, but we're just trying to get this into smaller chunks, into 5-minute videos for you, okay? But the real training that we do is actually here at transCODES every day. It's like a gym. We have sessions going on almost every day. We have, of course, the interaction with people, either in workshops, in webinars, and in energy sessions, and so forth. So I'm not just talking, guys. I'm reporting. So everything that I share with you here on Instagram and Facebook are things that actually already happened. Okay, so if I go through some of the challenges that you guys went through here in the last week, for instance, a lot of you guys have experienced a really, really strong, although you were able to contain it, but a really strong overwhelming. Okay, so I warned you last week. I said it's going to be a little extreme, okay, but you guys will be able to handle this if you don't let yourself get pulled into this. All right, so you're going to have to make sure that you stay in your center. And I keep saying this, grounding and centering, those are essential, instrumental things that you need to know as an energetically sensitive, as an empath, okay? But now, this next week, what we're going to see is problems that come from the outside, okay? You will see people lashing out, and we'll see this a bit on the larger. I want you to keep an eye on Italy. Hey, Italy, Luisa, I see you. Your country is on the energetic shit list here for this weekend, for this coming weekend, and other countries as well. Not like shit list, but you know what I mean. Those are these places in the world where there's a bit more going on. I already mentioned this in the April forecast. We have something like a war of beliefs starting here. So yes, I'm not going to tell you everything is going to be great, okay? But this doesn't mean that your life has to be a misery, okay? You have this opportunity to pierce through this, especially when those things get purged, because there is this reset that comes with it. So it's a realignment, a synchronization, it's like a test almost, okay? So don't get demotivated. Use these outbursts of say, darkness or negativity as a motivation for you to go a step further, okay? And if you don't know where to start, then as always, start with the simple things in life. Start with calming yourself down. Start with breathing. Start with exercising. This next week, guys, you're going to have to pay a lot of attention to your physiology again. Many have complained about nightmares. There was a lot of weirdo energetic perception this last week. Guys, if you've had like weird things happening to you this last week, such as seeing things, such as feeling pinned down to your bed, such as just sort of feeling like there's awkward stuff going on, and you don't really know how to handle this, then please put this in the comments here. I want everybody to know that they're not alone with these kind of perceptions. But even if you have children, for instance, or if you have pets, you may have noticed something last week. They were really on edge, and the kids, due to the nightmares and them not being able to contextualize this, of course they went into like really cranky places with it. Okay, if they, never get into the deep sleep, and if they get ripped out by stuff that they cannot contextualize, yes, you're gonna have a lot of screaming, exactly. And you've been dreaming out in your dreams. This is interesting, stay gold things. A lot of people reported to me that they've had these dreams within dreams within dreams. Okay, and when I talk about piercing through some of these things, I'm kind of referring to that. So with empathy training, with energy training, you can actually learn how to steer this a little bit, how to direct that when you're in these lucid places. So lucid really means that you're sort of half awake and half asleep, and most of us are not trained to react in those situations, but those of us who know how to feel their own energies and direct their own energies, they can still operate on that level, and that makes you feel like you regain your power, because you're not sort of in this sleep paralysis. You can actually still do things. Yes, a lot of people had that. But just to give you an example of why or what this empathy training or energetic training even is good for. Yes, another thing is that a lot of you guys feel sort of physically worn out, and you got to be a little careful here, because next week is an adrenaline week. Okay, that's a week where you will feel. You got to be careful with infections and inflammations here this next week. So I want you guys to pay attention to your diet. Maybe make sure that you don't. In the energy tips, I'm going to talk about excitotoxins a little bit. The contaminants that are in the produced food, because we're going to be particularly sensitive to it next week. Everything in this next week has to do with barrier testing, with borders, with the transition from one to the next, realm, dimension, whatever, blood-brain barrier, left and right, masculine, feminine energies. So it's good to educate ourselves a little bit on what these physiological aspects are that play into this. Energetically, you will feel things, I want you to pay attention to this. You'll feel things a lot either on your right side or on your left side next week. Come back here and share with us where you primarily feel things. You may know this, the right side is associated with your masculine energies in you, and your left side of your body is associated with your feminine energies. And there's a lot of writing. Go to transCODES.com, a lot of blog articles that explain what these different energies entail. But I want you to really look at this, and the stronger you feel either or, left or right, headache only on the right side, or your legs only hurting on the left side, I want you to visualize that these both parts of you need to come closer together. They need to work together more, okay? And that then creates a more balanced and a more stable energy for you to stand in, even though there's a lot of stuff going on the outside. Okay, there's going to be a lot of projection, guys, and if you are not prepared, you can get pulled into this, like into this vortex, that can pull you in like a black hole. All right, but you don't need to be afraid of it. Just make sure that you know how to stay within your own center. For those of you who are a bit more serious about this, you can join us here this weekend. We do the etheric protection intensive empathy training, 3 sessions, and this leads me to our giveaway. Yes, every week we have a giveaway, and this week, sorry guys on Instagram, you can't see this. This week I'm giving away 2 tickets, but you can still participate. 2 tickets for the energetic absorption session. This is all our energy training sessions are live sessions, guys, even though they're done through remote energy. This one is on Friday night, 11 p.m. So if you're in Europe, that's early morning hours for you. On Saturday, if you're in Australia, that's sort of midday on Saturday. I'm giving away 2 tickets for the energetic absorption session. How to prevent energetic absorption, how to even understand the factors that are involved in this. And all you need to do is type in, I choose to no longer absorb other people's energies now. Okay, so the first 2 of you who type this into the commentary, be it in the forum, be it here on Facebook, be it on Instagram, will get a free ticket, a free participation. If you've never done anything like this before, energy work or energy healing sessions, it'd be a great opportunity for you to test this out. So don't be afraid of that. On a energetic level here for this next week, all I can say is use this opportunity to reset. Use this opportunity to see that what you are now beginning to realize that is going on is an opportunity for you to start over, to have a second chance, to not having to go into any more regrets or guilt. So I want you guys to take this next week consciously with this second chance, even if you just take my say-so for it. Okay. And I can see you guys sharing here. Just want to address this. Yes, some of you feel things only on the left side, only on the right side. I don't want you to ponder too much about what this means. I want you to just focus, even if you don't have energy training, to bring these things, these 2 parts, these 2 sides of you more together. However this comes to you, in whatever intuitive way you see this. Okay? Awesome, guys. I gotta go and record the energy tips for the Patreon subscribers and Heart Warriors now. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. It's a pleasure to have you guys here. Please come back next week. Please share the videos. Love you guys. Bye-bye.